All right, well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Susan. I'm going to really enjoy being able to pick your brain a little bit about where we are right now in 2021. Last year was such a challenging time for everyone, and there were so many people that showed up to support in so many different ways. How did the Crucible respond to the needs of our community in 2020?
March was a shocking moment when we discovered that we had to shut down so suddenly because of the pandemic. It was really upsetting. All our artists lost their income, and we found out very quickly that people were really worried about just paying for basic needs like food and rent. We were able to pivot, and we raised over $70,000 to give out in relief. We started a community food bank that we're still doing, where we're giving out groceries every week. And it just made a huge difference to give people a toehold in what was a very, very hard time. People feel very strongly about the value of our community bike fix-a-thons, where you can come and get bikes fixed and repaired for free, where we give out bikes to people who need them. And we actually found a way to continue doing that during the COVID closure, where people could drop the bikes off and pick them up. And that was like a little ray of hope that we could continue to provide some benefit to a community around us that we knew was just as hard hit or more hard hit than we were by what was happening with the pandemic.
So what programs are you most proud of that the Crucible's been able to provide during this pandemic?
I think for me, the fact that we could reopen safely in July 2020 and offer summer camps to youth was just an incredible achievement. But when we reopened and served those 300 kids, like 25% of what we usually do, it was wonderful because they really needed to get out of the house, and it was the joy of art, but it was also the joy of being connected. And even having kids 6 feet apart, not allowed to sit together, being able to make things really transcended that. So we have this relationship with McClymonds through a grant where young people from engineering come in and do hands-on learning around some of the things they're learning theoretically. Having kids come through and participate is always exciting. But when you have kids who mostly have been at home in front of a screen, not seeing each other and not seeing a teacher in person, come into the building, that was incredibly powerful. And watching the energy and the joy of these young people, like putting on their welding gear with their friends and suiting up and then actually, taking a welding class, it just made me feel so good. It was great.
So during the closure, how would you say that the Crucible's broader community showed up to support us?
I think in March there was a moment when we really didn't know if we were going to make it. So for us, reaching back out and asking for help was really a key tactic for survival. And people were amazingly generous. There was an outpouring of support from so many donors at all different levels. It helped us know that if we could manage our cost, we'd be able to keep the lights on. One of the things that all the support we got allowed us to do was to really lean into some of the programs that we cared about. So the funding was so connected to supporting the bike shop work, to bringing the McClymonds youth back into the building, to being able to actually offer summer and fall classes. We were operating at 25% of capacity. That means 25% of our usual revenue. So the Crucible always depends on grants and contributions to meet costs. But if we hadn't gotten that support from the community, we wouldn't have been able to do any of it. It really filled a gap in a way that was so much more important than any other year, except for maybe this one coming up.
What are the Crucible's goals moving forward? Now that we've kind of been opening and running some programming, how do you see us expanding on what we've been able to provide so far?
I'd like us to have enough support that we can give out, $100,000 to $130,000 in scholarships. In 2019, we could do that. We had a really well-funded program, and that's really one of my big goals for right now, is to just make sure that we have the money so every young person who wants to participate in the Crucible, especially BIPOC and local youth, can attend regardless of what their family's income is. We want to develop some programs to really support BIPOC and West Oakland families who've never been to the Crucible, so that they can come in and have an experience of what it's like, and then we can really do a better job serving their children in our programs. We also want to really focus on how we can build the work for 18 and up. We've been running an entrepreneurship program with Centro Partners, and we're thinking about how we can really open Gifty to the community so some of those people and other people in our neighborhood could have more access to whatever version of our holiday fair is. But the number one thing right now is really making sure we have that money for the scholarships, because that's really the engine that's going to fuel so many of our other goals.
You know, to me, that's like one of the most important roles I think the Crucible can play in supporting our community. Seeing kids come through here, you know, at 8 years old and grow into our programs, and then, you know, just seeing all of the examples that we have of young adults that are working here and teaching it's truly inspiring, and that work wouldn't happen if it wasn't for some of the scholarship programs. So it is extremely important that we get that support. So I really want to thank you for sitting down with me today, and I really look forward to getting back here and getting my hands dirty and really supporting this community in any way that I can. So thank you.
Thanks, Iz. I'm really looking forward to doing this work in 2021.